to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars, crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar.
Welcome to Story Demon. I am Chris Hoke, also known as David Z. Hoke, also known as the author of Marav, and I've written a bunch of indie movie stuff you probably never watched, but anyway, it's still awesome. And with me is the lovely and talented
Celeste Prater, a writer of all kinds of different genres. So my favorite one, Visiting Darkness, and then I have my romance series, Fueled by Lust. So check me out. Just Google me, Celeste Prater.
And a semi-finalist screenplay festival writer person, too.
Yeah, Blue Cat screenplay hit semifinals out of 2,493 submissions, so I'm very proud of that. I didn't even think I'd hit quarterfinals, but getting up to semifinals was like, what?
That is nothing to seize that. I just thought of this, and I had been hit up before, and I was too busy writing the book, and they hit me up on the vacation. I forgot to follow up with them. But the Austin Film Fest has a screenplay contest, and they asked me to be a reader. And
really?
they probably look pretty good on my resume. I probably should reach back out there and say, yeah, I'll be a reader. But I probably should.
Gotta be careful because my screenplay's in that one. I put it in for the contest.
Did you really?
Yes.
We'll say that if I get it, I'll pass it along if I get it high marks. This is the winner.
You're gonna need to cut this out of the.
No, if I got it, honestly, I actually, I think knowing you probably like, no, don't review it, give it to somebody else. So I probably would just do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's
no,
hey, I know this one.
But I'm totally
this one's awesome. Here, y'all read this.
That's what I should. That's a good compromise. Just tell somebody else, this is amazing. You should read it. And then go from there. All right, but today we've been talking about crafting story, which is the purpose of our podcast and all that good stuff. Whether you're doing a screenplay or a book or whatever you're doing, these are basically universal principles. So today we're going to talk about protagonists. Now, my favorite subject's coming up after this podcast, which is antagonists. I like villains the best, but protagonists. Protagonists, like, let me give you my first thoughts on it, and then you can kind of come in and let me know your thoughts. But I'm of the school with your protagonist that if anybody is fucked up in your book, it should be your protagonist. And if anybody gets the shit kicked out of them in your book, it should be your protagonist. I come from that school of thought. I feel like I want my protagonist to be endearing. And no one is endeared to somebody who's perfect. We have a something in our psyche subconsciously tells us to reject perfectness.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I don't like Superman of the superheroes, because he's like other than Kryptonite, he's unbeatable, and he's almost like, you ever like when you're kids, you're playing a game, and then some kid keeps changing the rules as you play, and that to me is what Superman was. Oh, you've got ice, well he can like shoot lasers out of his eyes. Oh, you've got fire, oh he can breathe cold air. Oh, you can, you know what I mean? He always had something, and it's like, really, you have all these things, really. So I never.
The only thing was the kryptonite, and that was, to me, not enough.
No. He wasn't fallible enough. He wasn't, and whereas opposed to
Batman I think he was human, and he just really did some fantastical stuff. And he had a lot of flaws. And
his only resource was he was rich, so he could be creative and come up with ideas, and hire other people to have ideas and then make them come true. That was his superpower. But otherwise, it was all his head. But he was psychologically just trashed. I mean, with his parents. I mean, he was a tormented soul.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So he's way more.
And then, like with Max in my book, Visiting Darkness, he's a detective, but he's jaded. He's seen it, been there, done that. His partner was killed. His best buddy, Fergus McClellan's killed. He was with him when he died, and so that just drags along with him. He's divorced. He's turned within himself, and his wife, leaves him. Yeah. She got all involved in the church and stuff, and he's just kind of like, I believe, but I'm just not that dedicated, kind of thing. Right. So, it's all kinds of stuff happens to him.
Yeah, I mean the best heroes have something wrong with him. In the case of Marab, well, she got something wrong with her in terms of like she's arrogant at times, too trusting at times, and she jumps headlong into situations without thinking them through. But the biggest thing I did with her, more so than the tormented or psychological stuff, was beat the shit out of her. I viewed her more as a Rocky type, and I made some examples here of some different types of some characters that had flaws. So I put Rocky and his lack of self-confidence, Rambo and his PTSD, Wolverine and his rage at those who made him, the weapon, into a human weapon. Sarah Connor, overprotective of her son. Iron Man and his ego. So like all these different things make what these heroes enduring, and when you have the whole Mary Sue thing that is out there, or the Superman complex, they make these characters too perfect. With Marab, I wanted her to get the shit kicked out of her, like Rocky. Rocky's a good dude. He's insecure, but all in all, he's a good guy. But he gets his ass beat over and over and over again. He's not the best boxer. His strength is he just doesn't stop.
Exactly.
Doesn't quit. And so that was what makes him enduring. So that's why I chose to do it with Marab. But anyway,
and I like what you did with Marab, because, like I said, I identified with her because she knows she's fallible, that she can get killed. Yeah. And like you said, she is cocky to the point where she'll get herself like so confident when she's walking into a situation. All of a sudden, she'll be thinking, dude, he might be taking me out on this one. This one's kind of hard. How am I going to get out of this one? So you're thinking, how's she going to get out of this one? But, somehow or another, something, she has a little bit of luck on her side as well sometimes.
Yeah. But it's just the tenacity thing. If you have tenacity, you usually can outlast problems.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what like I said, kind of the Rocky idea, without lasting problems. So to me, the trick is, with planning a protagonist, is make him fallible and kick the shit out of him. What are your tricks? Maybe you have the same tricks. I don't know, but what do you try and bring to a protagonist? I want my characters to connect with them, because they're the ones you're going to wish along the way to, oh God, I hope they change, or I hope they find what they're trying to get. I hope, that they get the girl or whatever, or figure out what's going on. Like my Field by Less series, like I told you before about cookie cutter characters that, just really irritates me when I see, a series book and it's the same guy over and over again, just with a different name and different color eyes. Yeah. Right. And, or a different job, and what's the difference? But they all have that same characteristics about them. My characters, they may be sci-fi, they may be, aliens, but they look like humans. They're warriors, so they're really muscular, but they all have some kind of little flaw. They lost the women in their life. They were killed on their planet, so they don't have any women. That's why they're coming to Earth. They have to find mates, and all of them have this history of like, oh my God, I lost my mother. They loved their mother. They lost their sister, or something like that. Or one of them I had where he had been mated before to an actual Inseti woman before they all died. And she was a total bitch. And I made it where he was like, I don't want nothing to do with any other woman. Screw it. I'll just go on about my way. And so that way it flipped in that particular book, where the woman was, trying to get him to understand that he's lovable and that she's not like his ex that really treated him horribly, tried to kill him several times. So it's just, there's always a flaw. Max has a flaw where he's can't be in tight spaces. It just freaks him out. So he's got claustrophobia. So here's this hardcore detective that really is very intelligent, but that one flaw is just, just trying to get past that. So very important. So yeah, they have to have some kind of flaw, but not to the point where you're like, gosh, like a three-legged, one-legged detective or something. I don't want to make it where they're just so difficult for them to get through to do their job with. Yeah. It's just the point of some kind of emotional connection that you can make to for your readers. I know exactly what you mean. There are some flaws that take it to the uninteresting level, and like certain, for instance, it's an older it's not very popular these days, but you know, the Lone Ranger deal, like you wouldn't kill people. He would bring them to justice or whatever. I get it. I get why, but to me, they'll find it interesting because I want them to go ahead and kill people. I want to see the bad guy brought to eternal justice. You know, that personally doesn't interest me. I like it when Rambo goes in and machine guns everybody in the building. That's a bad guy. You know what I mean? I want to.
Well, let's think about us authors bring to our readers a bit of ourselves. So we're saying, hey, I like it when I see somebody get total justice. It's like if I had a way in society to be able to pick up a gun and shoot one of the teachers that had treated my kid wrong in school, I'd be right there.
Oh yeah,
but we can't do that. So we get to play in this creativity here, doing things that we would never do out here in the real world. Like I will not go and, you know, like, but if someone did mess with my kid and I had a gun and they had, you know, like molested my child and I knew it, caught them in the act, you're dead. I would do that out in the real world.
I actually, one of my indie movies, the one you saw, is about that. A guy's daughter is harmed. I won't give too much away, but she's harmed, and he shoots the bastard, kills him, and it's the story about the aftermath of that. I mean, that's that. I think the world is full of injustice enough that I don't want to like really contribute to that in my writing.
Right.
Just in my writing. You know what I mean?
It's such a good feeling of. Oh, thank God the good guy won, you know, but in these days and times, you know, it's the good guy really has to win hardcore. You know, it's not like, well, okay, I know you're a bad guy, but I think you might have redemptive qualities, you know, or something like that. And I'll tell you this other thing that's really weird too, is like how readers will perceive your protagonist if they think, oh, they're not mean enough to this person who's antagonizing them. Yeah. It's like, well, maybe I need to blow up the antagonist later, which we're going to be talking about antagonists in another one. But there's a point where you have to know, like, how far do I take my protagonist? What are they willing to do? How far are they willing to go? We talked about that before in a previous session about know who this person is, or your alien, or whatever you're using there. And I was going to ask you too. How would you view two protagonists like Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Remember the movie with Brad Pitt, and they're both protagonists, aren't they? So you can have
So you're talking like a buddy cop movie or a partner type movie or something like you have two protagonists. Those are actually really quite doable. I have not really. Well, I did take that back. Well, we did Cowboy and Lucky, and that was two protagonists. So I do have experience with that now that I think about it. I worked on that set so long ago, and I'm so close to those guys that I forget I even did it. But anyway, what I found writing two protagonists with that was they had to have conflict. So what for me, all of this is about conflict. You could just, to me, one word there's two words that describe story writing to me: clarity and conflict.
Exactly. You get those two.
Three C's. Character. I guess three C's: character, conflict, and I just said it. Character, conflict, and clarity. That's it. So what I've discovered with writing two protagonists is I had to make the focus of the story their conflict, and then fight the bad guy was almost like an extra bonus plot.
Right. That's a big key, because there's a difference between your protagonist and a sidekick that helps you take that protagonist through the story. So both of those protagonists have to have the same goal, the same end game.
Even if they don't
perfect was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because, you know, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt in the movie, you know, they both, like you said, the conflict they have to have between each other. You saw that they were like getting bored with each other there at first, and then all of a sudden they're bringing their marriage back again. So that's an idea of two protagonists equally going through the story, whereas a protagonist should be a little bit higher level than the one when you're calling it a sidekick.
Right. I think, like, to me, the ultimate partner two protagonist movie would be like Lethal Weapon, where the conflict is you've got the family man who's more measured and reserved, and then you have the wild suicidal guy that doesn't have anything to lose. Another guy has everything to lose. and their conflict of how they can finally mesh and find some sort of common ground. And then you have basically the story conflict of, drug heroin dealers that have killed a young girl and they've got to stop them. So that's a great example, to me, a textbook example of a two protagonist thing. I would say, bring it back to crafting and story demon. I would say if I was developing that story, that would be the main focal point, is like, how do I get these two characters to not gel at the beginning and through most of it until you reach a point where they need to gel. How can you then focus on that? And if you focus on that, the rest of it usually just falls in line.
So that brings up a really good point. At the very beginning, it almost looks like one of those future protagonists is really an antagonist. One of them's irritating the other. Maybe the other one's irritating the other. They may be an antagonist to each other. At the same time, all of a sudden, boom, you realize they are the protagonist going through, because then they have this other common thing they need to battle and get through. Then they become your protagonist. When
we did Cowboy and Lucky, what I did to develop it was, and they had already done some of them before, so I had a little bit of something to build off of. But if you watch stuff I did versus the other, they're quite a bit different. But I made Cowboy, which was Russell, is basically, I just took him and made him Scooby-Doo. Yeah. He's always hungry. He's always lucks out. He doesn't even have to try, and things go his way. And then I made Lucky, who was Chris. Basically, I wanted them to be like from two different movies. So you had Scooby-Doo, and then I made him more of your PTSD, haunted type guy, kind of like a Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon type of a guy. Right. So we took Scooby-Doo and Martin Riggs and forced them to work together. And that's basically what I did with them. So you had the comedy relief over here, and then you had the drama over here, and the conflict was measured, thoughtful, tormented, and this guy who never gives a shit but just wants to get laid and eat all the time. Yeah, exactly. That's all he exists, just to be an animal, just to eat and procreate. That's all. and also, it's like he's never going to change. It's one of them. He won't ever change, or he will change later. Like he becomes more mature or something because of something that happened to him. If he was the main protagonist, but the whole goal of your protagonist is, you're saying, they're in this normal thing that's happening to them right now. There's like their normal line of work, or their normal happening in their marriage, and all of a sudden conflict. Something happens that makes them go, I need to deal with this. If you have a story where it's just plodding around and usually, having a little fight between husband and wife, blah, blah, blah. They go to a counselor. They decide they love each other. End of story. Boring. You got to have it where maybe the wife gets kidnapped and he knows he really loves her. He has to battle to go find her, so it's got to be some serious conflict that will, in the end, and this applies to movies as well for your protagonist. Doesn't matter. Story. Is your protagonist has to change in some way. They have to either become better or they completely fail and it ruins them. It depends on what your ending story arc or objective is. So if you want to expound on that, about the change of that character, they will not be the same when they get to the end. Yeah. I mean, it's the whole the hero's journey is the most classic example of a storytelling thing, and that's basically what I used for Mirage, with a hero's journey type way of doing it. And but basically, as you say at the beginning, your hero has to be either set in their ways, or they're already on some sort of course, or they've accepted something. In the case of Marav, she'd accepted her exile and was making the best of it. And then when she has this land that she's basically supposed to own, there's people on it, and when discovering there's people on it and conflict on it, she realizes that people have been murdered. And then in seeing what's going on, at least it sort of just keeps spiraling. And then next thing you know, she's caught up in this conflict, and all that happens. Most of what I told you is already started when the book starts. So like half of that, what I just said, is already kind of happens off book, So, going back to changed. So, basically, I mean, the whole, if at the end of your book or movie or whatever, that the hero is the same as where you started, I mean, those usually aren't very good works. You have to have some sort of arc.
Formulas.
There has to be some sort of arc or change, and doesn't have to always be they win in the end. Rocky didn't win the fight at the end of Rocky, the first Rocky. He just went the distance. Like he just made his goal going the distance, and then at the end of Breaking Bad, I mean, he starts. He starts as a cancer diagnosed chemistry teacher, and it's been out long enough. I feel like we can safely spoil it.
Yeah.
At the end of the series, he's a dead, wanted cartel leader guy, a drug kingpin. But
he had the same goal. Yeah, but he had the same goal because of that one goal he had, which is take care of my family, take care of my family, take care of my family. He morphs into this other thing and becomes this totally different badass persona to be able to meet that goal.
Exactly. Great point. That's a fantastic point. As a drug kingpin or as a diagnosed with cancer chemistry teacher, his goal was to take care of his family. It just got warped and twisted throughout. That's a great point, exactly.
Yeah. And then he got, I want to take care of him really, really big. He morphed into, I want more. I need more, to really take care of him, So you can morph that character, even if they're doing something bad, but what's the goal? He's a protagonist because it was for the good of something to take care of his family. So that's what I'm saying before. We said, know who your main character is. Sure. Know what their goal is, where they're going to end up at. How much change do you want them to go through? What kinds of changes are they going to go through because of what you're going to put them through? It's like, someone says you're so trustworthy. You're so a trustworthy person, but do you put them in a position where they break someone's trust because of something? Right. So you can, switch up something that they're well known for. Trustworthy, never tells a lie. This time I have to lie. This time I cannot be trustworthy because of some other goal. Yeah.
What are their principles? And then when they're facing the choice of the principles, what decisions are they going to make? These are questions you can ask yourself, set that conflict. So I had mentioned an exercise on one of the other podcasts. I didn't go back and find out who originated it, so my bad there. Good. But I did use the exercise here. I'm gonna read this real quick for people wanting if you want tangible, literal things you can physically do to work on your protagonist. I'm going to give it to you right now. So just basically take a piece of paper and start out with the basics. What's their gender? What's their family status? Married, not married, single, widow, widower, whatever. Do they get along with their parents? Do they get along with their spouse? Do they get along with their kids? If these all exist. If they're dead, well, that's something right there. What do they do for a living? Yeah. Right. What do they do for a living? What do they wish they were doing for a living? What's their biggest emotional need? What's their biggest physical need? Why do they struggle getting those needs met? What mistake do they keep making trying to get that need met? And basically, a summation, if you kind of work through these basic things, you're going to find that a story will start presenting itself, because basically what you're focusing on is what are the conflicts of their life. And this will lead to the antagonist one that we'll talk about more later. But as you do this, you could literally, by working on character, you can develop story and plot. Because once you start asking yourself these questions, and the conflict will arise, and then sometimes the antagonist will arise. Well, if they want to be the best heavyweight fighter, what does that mean? They got to beat the current champion. So you automatically now have an antagonist. So those are just that's a tool I think people can use, just answering basic questions to help them develop. I think a lot of people try and work backwards. They want the plot and they try and fit the character, and it's you can't do that. I've done that before. But if you're starting from scratch and you're sort of a
new writer,
new writer, new storyteller, this is a pretty effective way to do that.
Yeah, and what he just said is is so important, because you're basically building a new human in your brain, or a new alien, or whatever you're making them as. This character has to be so real to you for you to be able to make it real to your reader, your audience. I'm pretty sure everybody here who's watching this, our whole 12, has been to a movie or been to read a book where you're going this is a two-dimensional character. I cannot connect with him. I don't care what happens to that guy. You know, and you just go through, and then you put the book down for a while, maybe get it up later because the story might have been good, but the character, you know, and that's something you have to build. Not only that world, but that person who's walking around in it. Very realized. And what did you use that word before that you said about the realism, not clarity, but the realism that comes with it? They get, you know, they can get sick. It was on one of the other sessions, but hey, your characters, they can get sick. They can, they, you know, have to go to the bathroom. You know, let them have a bathroom break every now and then. You know, it's like you have this person that's walking across the desert, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey, you know, just kind of little mention is like, I'm going to go dig a hole over here. I'll be right back. You know, I'm a real person. I did that in one of my romance books about my alien guy and his future mate that she doesn't realize, you know, that she is, but they're stuck in a virtual reality video game. Yeah. And so at one point she said, hey, we haven't ever gone to the bathroom. What's happened to my real body? You know, so it brings you back to the idea about, oh my God, she is real. Even though they're in this virtual game, she's a real person stuck on a bus, you know, passed out. What's happening to my real body? So you just got to, you know, jerk your reader back into the idea that I feel real. Oh, I feel their pain. Yeah. What would happen if it was happening to me? You want them to place themselves in those characters and play that character out. Especially in romance books, you want to be that woman that gets, you know, the hunky alien comes and gets. I love you.
I know exactly what you're talking about. With physical need adding to characters, like with Marav, you know, I won't give this part away, but basically she burns a lot of calories. We'll just say that. She burns a lot of calories, more than a normal. And so she therefore eats all the time. So she finds through happenstance this protein bar brand that she really likes. And so she becomes sort of obsessed with it. And every time she finds it, she grabs them throughout the book. And then there's this part where she's been on an IV for an extended amount of time and she's got to pee. And there's action happening
in her brain.
Action happening. She can't stop and pee, but she really needs to pee. And as soon as the action stops, the first word of her mouth is, I got to go pee. I mean, exactly. I mean, that's all making her relatable, not making her Superman. Like going back to the whole Superman thing.
And when I was reading through there, I mean, those are the points where I go, oh, I love that part because that's so true. Yeah. You know, I got to do something. I got to go pee.
Yeah. You can't go pee because you got to get this done, but you really got to go pee, so you can't really focus on it. So yeah, it's a thing.
You're like, don't make me laugh. I'm gonna pee on myself. You know, because you can put me in any kind of situation.
I would say we got just a couple of minutes left. Let me summarize with this. I would say for a newbie out there listening to this, think of Keanu Reeves. Think of Speed and John Wick. Mm-hmm. Now, define the character in Speed. Well, let me just save you some time. You're not going to be able to. There's no character in Speed. The only character he has Speed is he's a cop and he needs to stop the bus. Or not stop the bus, actually. He needs to stop the bomb. Yeah. Keep the bus going. There is no character in Speed. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's an exciting movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm just saying Keanu is just Keanu in Speed. Okay? Mm-hmm. John Wick? Now, tell me about John Wick. Well, I guarantee you can give me a whole list of things about John Wick. And they made 4 of those. They made one shitty Speed sequel that nobody watched, and he wasn't even in it. And they've made 4 John Wick so far. They're thinking of making number 5 right now. So
yeah, exactly.
That should tell you everything you need to know about character development. Speed, no character. You got one good movie.
John Wick. Hit wonder.
Huh?
One hit wonder.
One hit wonder, exactly. John Wick, you got fully developed character. 4 movies. So think about that. It's all about the character. It's all about the character.
Well said. That's a good way to end it on.
All right. So we're going to see if I remember my salute. I got the camera.
Ready?
There we go. So I got my arm. I got my arm flat. And
down.
Did I do good?
Yeah, that was perfect. But you put your arm down. You don't have to be stuck like, oh, you're frozen on the screen.
Oh.
There you go. And try not to turn your head. It's up here. Straight.
Right.
Boom.
Oh. All right.
There you go.
There you go. So there you go. Salute and bye, everybody.
Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.